Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jonathan here. Before we get started with this week's episode, I just wanted to come on here real quick and give you guys a little heads up. Unfortunately, the strangest thing happened to us while recording this week's episode. We were like halfway done when I get a notification from our Ring doorbell that says like camera has been turned off or is offline or something like that. I didn't think much of it. I told Blanca, so we kept recording. Come to find out, the power actually went out halfway through the recording. Luckily, the camera isn't attached to any sort of power, right? So we didn't lose power there. But with the audio, we did. So in case you're new, this is your very first podcast, or you're just, a returning listener, we do want to let you know that the audio is a little bit off. And I want to give you a little heads up because you guys know the quality we put out is always top tier. So this week's podcast will be a little bit iffier. But the reason we didn't redo it or we didn't just do another one is I told the team that this podcast came out like super good, super nice. Both Blanca and I got like super emotional, and we kind of talked about a lot of trauma that we would just hate to like. First of all, you can't really redo that type of conversation. And second, we would hate to just scratch it completely. So just bear with us, guys, for this week for the audio. Just remember, we love you. We appreciate you regardless, and enjoy. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Spill the Beans podcast.
Happy Friday, guys. I hope you're having a good Friday and that you liked our first podcast of the year.
I think you guys did like the strategy that Blanca proposed. We did the audio first on Thursday and then the visual on Friday. And we got a lot of positive feedback. Also, a lot of positive feedback from our team saying that they're like the audio went up in views. So that's really good. We really appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. If you don't know, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of the podcast streaming platforms. If you ever want to check us out there, we upload a day before it goes live on YouTube. So on Thursday, you'll get the podcast, and then on Friday, you can see what we're wearing.
Yeah. And then I think to top off this podcast, since it's the beginning of the year, guys, I think we're going to start off with some kind of topics that I know we've talked about like last year, but now that we're parents, now that we've experienced a whole nother year of life, we've gotten older, I feel like our views and things have changed. Just like we talked about last podcast, how I thought I wasn't going to be so protective of Franco. I was going to be more of a chill parent. Turns out that I'm not, and I don't think I will be. So we kind of want to update you guys on how we feel, our beliefs, our things we've learned with the 11-month-old, almost 1. So yeah, hope you enjoy. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the weather. To complacer a Perla in the comments, she wanted Detroit. She said that she's been mentioning it for 3 times already. So we'll go ahead and give you Detroit. Looks like 50% of snow this Friday. So I know Detroit is like crazy, like in terms of coldness. So good luck with that. Then we're going to go over to Dallas. Dallas on Friday looks like just sunny, 59 degrees. Not bad. That looks pretty chill. Let's go with LA. Friday, 40% chance of rain, 65 degrees. I've seen from my friends' Instagrams that it's been raining a lot, so I think anytime that it rains in Cali, it's a good thing, so I don't think y'all mind it that much. San Francisco, oh my god, you guys have literally rain the whole week and a half. So Friday, 60% of rain, 56 degrees. And lastly, let's go with Denver, Colorado. What's it going to look like for us? Partially cloudy, 50 degrees. Not bad. Okay. Anything you want to say, babe, before we get started?
I think we're going to be in California this Friday, actually. As you guys are watching this, we should probably be landing in California as we speak, because we are going to a birthday party, and we're so excited to take Blanco to it. So we'll be in California, guys, getting all the rain, all the vibes.
Yeah, I miss the rain. I like the rain way more than I do the snow. But let's go ahead with this topic. I asked you guys on our Instagram, Spill the Beans Instagram. I posted podcast topics y'all would like us to talk about. I'm going up, and I see some very interesting ones. And we're going to go with this one. Would you send Franco to Mexico to visit at an early age or when he's old enough?
You want to answer?
I'll let you go first.
You go.
No, since you're like a mom, I'll let you go first.
I think that I would. Well, thankfully with the job we have, we can actually go with him. So I don't think that there's a need for me to send him and like for him to be alone over there. But we definitely want to go, like as in starting as at his early age, so that he can grow up and just know where he's from, his roots, and you know, just to get the vibes from Mexico. I feel like people or kids that are raised in Mexico are raised in a happier state in a sense, and they learn a lot. So I think that we don't have the need to send him at an early age. We can just go with him and just make sure that we do bring him and he visits frequently.
Yeah, I think that whole sending thing was because I was one of those kids donde los mandaban literally the day after summer break started. I would go all the way until the week before because I had to buy, you know, my school supplies the week before in August. So, but that's because obviously my dad, you know, summer is the prime time for all these Mexican dads in landscape and construction. So that's why they couldn't come with, but we're blessed enough, thanks to you guys, to be able to go with him. Who knows when he's older, though, when he starts noviando, if he'll want us to go with him, though. You think your parents would like to be on a podcast? We got this requested so much in the comments last podcast, and then it's one of the most asked questions right now.
I think they wouldn't mind it, so I think maybe we can push a podcast out with them this year. I think they would just be a little bit nervous because they've never really been like when you sit down with the microphone and talk to the camera. They're just in vlogs, so I don't think they would mind it. We just have to prepare them so they're not too nervous.
Yeah, I think your dad would at the beginning maybe be a little bit more shy, pero como que se soltaría, I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is a good one. This one's the one I really want to talk about. Different ways to parent in a Latino household. Too much pressure to too gentle parents. That's how she worded it.
Mm.
So how do you think you're gonna like work with that? Or you think you're just like, I'm gonna be a gentle parent in my body?
Yeah, I don't think that any good has came from being raised in a Latino household. I mean, you grow up kind of being scared of your parents. You grow up in a very strict household. You grow up getting yelled at, getting a shoe thrown at you. And I believe that creates very insecure children and just insecure adults, period. So I wouldn't say I'm going to go like, oh, just the gentle, don't hit me. Like, I'm still going to be assertive and stern, but I'm not going to raise him like I was raised in a sense, because I just feel like every person that I know that was raised that way has some type of trauma. And I know that in a lot of Hispanic households, they always like, oh, don't hold him too much, no lo chipiles tanto, or like little children, toddlers are like, oh, don't let, he's trying to manipulate you, he's trying to get his way, blah, blah. It's like little kids don't have that skill, that manipulative skill. Little kids are barely experiencing things for the first time, and you're gonna just sit there and yell at them or pinch them, or if they're throwing a tantrum at the store because they're having a huge feeling that they've never felt before, you're just gonna humiliate them in front of other people because you're stressed out. So I just believe that in that sense, I'm gonna try to be very gentle and stern, just so he knows like that he can come to me and that I'm a safe spot, but he's not scared of me or I don't want to make him feel insecure or anything. And that starts even right now at this age. So probably not like the super just gentle parent where you let them do whatever they want. It's going to be more stern, and I'm going to make sure that he understands what I want from him, and he's not going to understand that when he's 1 or 2, you know. So at that age, I don't know, I just feel like I will slowly learn how to treat him and probably set up boundaries to other people, or how other people try to correct the things that he does. Because like I said, little toddlers, 1, 2, 3-year-olds, they don't know anything. Like, they're coming into the world and they're new. Like, everything that they're learning is new to them. So I think I'm going to try to take that into consideration all the time. I don't know about you. You're more, I would say, strict.
Yeah, I think I am more strict, but as he gets older, kind of Blanca opens my eyes and shows me different things, because everything's about perspective, guys. And I'm the type of person that I like to learn, you know. If I truly think I'm wrong, then I'll change it. And I think I have been learning with Franco that they don't, because a lot of the times we like to say like, that kid is smarter than he looks, like nos está haciendo mensos, like He knows how to trick us into getting what he wants. At the end of the day, like, that for me comes as a, like, you guys know I'm a, like, nerdy nerd. So that to me is like instincts, like survival. Like, he knows, like, his little primitive caveman little baby self knows that he needs to do, like, whatever he's doing to manipulate, say, will manipulate, I put in quotes, me, is to survive or to have, like, a better life. And he's not necessarily doing it because in his head he's like, voy a hacer mi papá way, or like, or my mom or whatever. No, it's because he knows, he just has that feeling that it makes him feel better, or he will have a better result from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, we take something so simple as like running away from his little play area. Like, to me, he's like, you know better than that. You know you're not supposed to go on the stairs. But to him, it's like, I need to explore. I have this urge to explore, and I don't know how to describe it, and he doesn't, you know? So kind of like changing that perspective has been great recently, and that leads to more patience. So anything he does now, even though it's like, it might seem like se está portando mal in quotes, it's just him, like you say, experiencing life and for the first time, you know? So
yeah,
definitely have a lot of patience with that.
I know that in a lot of Hispanic households, it's common to like hit your child if he's not doing something. And as I said, everybody that I know that has been hit as a child because they're not doing something has grown up in trauma, has grown up to hate their parents, has grown up to not have a good relationship, or to just be insecure, you know? And I believe that maybe, I feel like people that hit their kids just do it for their selfish needs. Like, they feel better because they're hitting their kids and letting their anger out by smacking their butt. But in reality, if you really think about it, like, that is not helping the situation at all. That's not going to make your child listen to you more. It's just like, you're just hurting your relationship and you're hurting them too. And I just think that physical pain like that intentionally is not needed. So I think as I keep growing and I keep experiencing other parents parent their child, just like seeing someone hit their kid in front of me or seeing someone pinch their kid in front of me, it's like, for me, I'm like, okay, if that works for you, cool. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to parent your child. But for me, I'm like, I don't ever want Franco to see me like that, or to do something and to just know, like, oh my God, my mom's going to smack me when I get home, or, oh, my mom's going to hit me because I did this. Like, I don't want him to feel that. And I would just want to grow up with him having a healthy relationship with me and to feel safe coming to me for anything and not just be scared of me. Like, well, if I do this, like, my mom's going to hit me, she's going to spank me. And I just think that hitting your kids does not create a secure child. Like, they're just going to be insecure. They're not going to be confident. You're creating very hurt and traumatized adults. Even if, like, they come out and they're super great, like, there's still trauma in there, you know? And by the grace of God, they became an amazing person, or because they just decided to seek therapy when they're older and they know more. But there's also people that stop, like, I think Stacey was saying that there's a lot of people that's their brain stops growing at a certain age. So I'm like, yeah, I feel like there's so many people that are like 30 or 35, 40, but they still have like a 12-year-old mentality. And that's caused by a lot of trauma that you have to endure when you're growing up. And also because I feel like as you're older, obviously a lot of your mistakes can be avoided. And I think we know more, like, we're 24 and we've been through trauma. Like, there's so many things that has happened in our lives, but we know, like, oh, there's help. Like, there's people I can seek to talk about this. There's a therapist I can go to and they can give me their perspective in my life, but without knowing, like, my personal family and all of that. So I just don't believe that like, I feel like it starts with you at home when they're little. Like, if you're hitting them, if you're doing all of this, you're not setting them up for a successful life. And that's going to suck because then they're going to hurt more people, because, like they say, hurt people. So it all starts with how you parent your child. And that brings me to another point where I'm like, I love people that say, I'm not ready to be a mom, I'm not ready to be a dad, I don't think I'm mentally capable of it yet. Or people that are super selfish and think that, oh, I don't ever want to be parents. Like, I love those people because you know the responsibility that it is to have a child and to create a little human being into a successful person. So I love that. And then on the other side, it's like there's so many people that just have babies to have them, but they don't have the patience, they don't have the like, what would I say, the time to research what it is to actually raise a proper person. So I don't know, I think that you really have to think about what you're getting yourself into, because depending on how you raise this child, like they're gonna either be a really good person or a really shitty person. And it's not like, oh, it's your fault, like all the fault comes on you. It doesn't, but there is trauma that you instill in them in their little brains since they're little. So I don't know, I feel like if you want to be a parent, or if you already are a parent, you have to be so thoughtful on how you parent your child, because that's going to lead them to the rest of their life. And you don't want to have a hurt child, you don't want to have a little depressed teenager, because I feel like that sucks. And in today's day and age, there's so many of those, and it sucks that with TikTok we see that so much. There's so many people with suicidal thoughts and all of that. And although a lot of that is like, you can get help, you can go to therapy and stuff, it all starts with you at home and how you parent your child. So really think about it, guys. If you have kids, or if you want to have kids, like, it's not just like, oh, cute, they're so cute. It's like, no, you have to make sure that you raise a healthy person, not just physically but mentally.
Yeah. The last thing you want to do is raise Jeffrey Dahmer, because that's messed up. Now that you bring that Stacy up, we were talking about this the other day, and I think it's like, basically, like, if you've ever put in a spoon on your finger and you try to like balance it so it doesn't fall off, like put it right in the middle. I think that's kind of what parenting is with like this question, like strictness and gentleness. Because although like I do agree 100% with Blanca on like no hitting, no nothing like that, but there's like the other shitty end of the stick where I've seen parents that are too undisciplined with their kids, and they grow up to be like buenos para nadas, so like I think there needs to be some sort of sternness, but that sternness should come from like a psychological point, and maybe like a place of like love, you know what I mean? Because the thing that I always remember the most from my parents is not the hits, not the yells, not anything. It's my dad giving me genuine advice, you know what I mean? And he didn't need to yell at me, he didn't need to aggressively come on to me for me to learn that. It took him just being nice and talking to me, coming as a friend, you know what I mean? Like when they say that kind of like when you talk to your dogs, they say that you're not supposed to talk to your dogs like over them. You're supposed to like kneel down and be like eye to eye, and like that's why a lot of people kneel down and give affection and love to the dogs, because it makes them feel like, oh my god, he's stooping down to me to like show me love. And I think that's the same thing as a kid. Like sometimes you take authority and like you thinking you're the grown up and all that, and you sometimes don't know, so sometimes you got to stoop down to their level, to their little problems, to their little emotions, and kind of just help them with that, so who knows what the future has in store with us. But I do feel like anything from love, like I saw this thing where like this little picture was like an animated picture, and it was like a dad like screaming at the mom, and then the little baby's next to him, or toddler, and he's screaming at the mom. But then another picture is like the dad giving flowers to the mom, and then the little kid brought like his own little flower and gave it to the mom. So it really is like how you are, So hopefully we can be good role models with Franco in terms of that. Mm-hmm. And let us know, guys, like in the comments, like what has worked with you and what has, because at the end of the day, we just have a 1-year-old, like who knows what 10 years old could, that's why I love to learn and I love to ask people. My barber left to Zacatecas for 3 weeks, so his neighbor barber, his friend, has been cutting me up for 3 weeks, and in these 3 weeks I've learned a lot from him, because he has a 10-year-old son. So I kind of like to ask him a lot of questions. I'm like, hey man, if you don't mind me asking all these questions. He's like, no, like go for it. I was like, I genuinely want to learn, because I'm gonna have a 10-year-old one day. And he's like, well, right now is the attitude, man, the sass. And I'm like, well, how do you deal with it? And he tells me, because I wouldn't be asking from his advice if I didn't think he looked or sounded like a good dad. So, and I know he is. So that's why I like to ask him. And if you don't know, it's always good. That's why I'm asking you guys to comment in the comments, because we won't know everything. And I always like to be prepared.
Yeah. And I think with that also comes the, what your child sees at home is what they're going to accept from the rest of the world. So if your child sees like, oh, all they do is yell, all they do is like push each other and shove each other around, and like to get things, then that's what they're gonna accept from the world. So if their friends, or their bullies are just pushing them, shoving them, or if their girlfriend or boyfriend are just yelling at them, and that's how, like, that's what they saw at home, they're gonna think like, oh, this is what I deserve because this is what has been normal my entire life. So like I said and continue to say, it all starts at home. So whatever they see at home is what they're gonna accept when they're 10, 20, 30 years old. So you have to really be so intentional about how you are in front of your kids, because like they say, you want your kids to grow up, and when they find out who you really are, like for you to be the person you've always been to them, you know, and not just this completely different person just because you were like putting a face in front of them. So it's like, if you genuinely are a good person, if you genuinely have those like good intentions, then your kids are going to grow up to know that you're a genuine person, unless you're like a narcissistic mom or a toxic mom, you know. So I don't know, I just keep going back to the same thing, like it just starts at home and it starts with you.
Yeah. Leading on from this question, kind of going to this other one, because people want to know us a little bit more. So do you want to like talk about like one trauma that you have, and that if you've overcame it or you're still working on it?
I would say the trauma that I
Family
have,
trauma.
and that a lot of people like can notice, is my dad. Like my dad and I did not start having a good relationship until I got pregnant, and that's a long time. Like I was already 20.
You think that late?
Yes.
I feel like 2 years before you met.
No.
When I first met you, it was bad, and then what? Like I think because of me, maybe.
No, I think it was.
But I did notice a progressive betterness.
Yeah, but I think it was a healthy relationship when I got pregnant, because before I got pregnant, well, actually, like from my teenage years down, my dad and I had never had a good relationship. Like he was just trying the best that he could, and he could only be what he knows and like how his dad was and like the role models that he had. So with all that trauma came to him not being a very good dad to me, in a sense that he wasn't like affectionate. He had his days. There were sometimes when he was a super good dad. There were sometimes when he was a scary dad. So I think that when my sisters came and they were born, my dad grew like a softer spot. Like he slowly, like his shell started like peeling, I would say. And he was really, really good to my sisters. Like I think that they got probably the best version of him. Obviously, like my brother and I got probably the worst version of him growing up. So I think the trauma with that is that my dad, he was a yeller. He was never a hitter. Like I don't think my dad has ever laid his hands on me, or maybe like he probably spanked me sometimes, but like nothing crazy that I'm like, oh man, like I remember him hitting me. But I don't think my dad ever hit me. If anything, I think my mom slapped my face once, and that was because I deserved it. But other than that, like my parents were never the hitters. My mom did throw the chancla, so but it was never like abusive in that way. But my dad and I were just like, he was the yeller. Like the way that he thought he could get his point across was like by yelling at me and like ordering me to do things, and like if you don't do this, you're not gonna get this and stuff like that. So like growing up, he was a very strict parent. Like I had to wash the dishes, clean the bathroom, like do all of this, and even after I did all my chores, he'd be like, you're still not going. So he was just a very like, I guess, I don't know, like strict dad. And then, so that led into my teenage years. I just would not talk to him. Like, we would live in the same household, but we would not communicate unless it was with my sisters, because I helped him take care of my sisters when my mom was working. She had been working weekends for the last, like, 15 years. So I had to take care of my sisters with him. Like, when my sisters were, like, super babies and, like, 1 or 2 years old, he would take care of them. But when they started getting older, like, I would take care of them, or I would help him. So we would only communicate in that sense. And slowly that led into me just not communicating to him at all. Like when I got into like my 16, 17, 18 years old, I personally felt like I was a good teenager. I never gave them problems. I mean, the most problems were probably with Jonathan, like sneaking out or always like lying up where I was because I was with him and all my friends and stuff like that. So I thought I was a pretty good teenager, which led me to believe, like, if I'm a good person and I'm not giving you guys any trouble, like, I don't have to communicate with you. So I would not talk to my dad. I would not ask him for permission. He would just, like, tell my mom, like, look at her. Like, she doesn't even talk to me. She doesn't even ask me. And my mom was very supportive, and, like, she knew, like, all of this. So she would just be like, well, she's fine. Like, she's good in school. Like, and then when I graduated, I think it got a little bit worse in the sense that then I really didn't ask for permission at all. Like, I would just kind of be like, well, to my mom, I always would, but to my dad, it was just like not it wasn't a father-daughter relationship. It was just like we would communicate when we needed to, like with money and stuff, or if I could go and like take the car and take it places. But other than that, like my dad and I didn't really have communication skills at all. And then it all changed when I like moved out. I think when I moved out is when we kind of started getting a little bit closer, because I wouldn't see them and we wouldn't argue and we wouldn't do anything. So yeah, like our main point of communication before I moved out was arguing, like arguments about XYZ. And so when I moved out and I didn't see them that often, when I would see them, there was nothing to argue about. So my dad and I slowly started like communicating and like talking and like kind of like I don't know, like meeting each other, like knowing how each other were. And my mom says that my dad and I have very similar tendencies, like in the personality sense, which is like, I think that's why you guys can't stand each other, because you're so similar. But slowly but surely, like we started talking more, like I don't know, our relationship kind of started to grow. And then when I got pregnant, girl, like that was probably it for him. Like I don't know what happened, but he did a complete 180, and I don't know, like I would just always call him. I feel like I involved him more in my life. Before it was like just my mom and I were literally like together all the time. And so when I got pregnant, I started involving my dad more in my life, and hey, can you come over and do this? Hey, like that's why you guys would always see my dad helping Jonathan build some type of thing, or helping us clean the garage, or helping us, do all of it. And so when I got pregnant, that's when our relationship started to grow. And then I think now is when, or like this year of me being a mom, I slowly started like realizing like your parents only did what they thought was the best that they could do. Like they tried their best. They did everything they could to like, to their extent, like to what they could reach. So I think now, although there is a little bit of trauma of like, oh damn, like we did have a really good relationship growing up, that was my biggest trauma, I think, with my family. So I feel like being more understanding now, I wouldn't say it's as traumatic as I once thought when I was 16 years old. But it definitely, I think our relationship changing and like getting better in him and seeing what a good grandparent he is, it's just easier to understand why he was the way he was when I was younger. So I think that's my trauma. What's yours?
Very well said, babe. I think I'm not gonna take credit, because obviously I feel like you've done all the healing in terms of with him and stuff. But I do feel like I kind of, in instances, not all the time, would help you kind of with him and like taking stuff into consideration, because I feel like si fuera otro like me, and hearing the way your dad was and treated, I would probably, like, maybe another guy would tell you like, well, stop, like, fuck him, like, don't talk to him ever again, like, you won't need him when we moved out, like, no, like, anything. But sometimes I feel like when we moved out, I really like to involve him a lot in the stuff that we did, because at the end of the day, I can build that piece of furniture if I really wanted to by myself. I could do this and that by myself. I could do this, but I would always be like, invite your dad, invite your dad, tell your dad to come over, And at the end of the day, it was for physical purposes. He's a great builder and stuff like that. But it was more to heal not only like yourself, but like me as well. Because I do see myself, well, sometimes like in the good things, I do see myself like a mini version of your dad. And
sometimes.
All the time. And that's why I kind of like identified with him. And I always wanted to be like, if your dad could come over, I liked it, because not for you and your trauma, or sometimes I knew that was healing, but also for me, like I finally had like my dad's always been great, right? Like my real dad and everything. And
your real dad?
Like, because I see your dad as my dad now. So I feel like my dad's always been great. Like, no excuses. He showed me a lot of things. But like your dad, my dad was always more like chill, calm, and I was crazy. So when I met your dad, I could see that he had that craziness that I have. So it was really like me having another like bit older version of me. So I kind of like, I remember, because I've always been, sometimes putting myself in other people's shoes gets me in trouble. Sometimes with you, because I remember you were like super mad at your dad one time, and I was like, I don't know why it hit me, but I think it was around this time and a few years ago, and I remember your grandma had died, and for me it's so sad knowing that like your dad never saw your grandma, his mom, for how many years? 20. Mm-hmm. And then when she finally passed away, like how much a person changes in 20 years physically and stuff like that. And the last time he hugged her, or probably was even like years before he came, because I'm sure he was like a rebel so like the last time that your dad got a true mom hug was probably when he was like in his preteens, like a sincere "I love you" mom to son hug. So for him to like not be able to like bury his mom, anyways, guys, long story short, I sympathized a lot with his dad, with her dad, and I was like, you don't know what he's holding in or what he's going through, and till now, like I remember he always gets sad around this time. And the other day we went over for New Year's, and I could tell right away. We walked in and they were like, as soon as I know he's listening to Vicente Fernandez or anything like that, I know he's kind of sad, and I could see in his eyes he was a little teary, and you didn't notice that because you were being a mom and stuff. But I told Blanca, I was like, can you come with me, because I forgot my ID, my wallet, and he's like, can you come with me and can you buy me like a bottle? And not saying like alcohol makes her dad happy, but he likes to make un ambiente. So I noticed that they didn't have any bottles, especially his favorite, which was Don Julio. So we went and bought it, and boom, like right away he like cheered up, sacó la lotería, we started taking shots. And that was my little version of like, I'm not gonna, as a men, we're not emotional like that. I'm not gonna be like, I feel sorry for your loss, your mom, it's been all these years, and I know you weren't able to see her, but I can do this and this for you, you know what I mean? So that's what I feel like si fuera otro, maybe like a less if you had married like a less toxic male, maybe even like, sounds fucked up, but even like a better man than myself, maybe he would have never like let you heal with your dad, because he wouldn't have wanted him around, because he was.
Well, I think that in a sense that's kind of different, because as I always say, in like how I always would describe Jonathan when he was toxic and like people wouldn't believe me, I'm like, yeah, because he's only toxic to me, so, and he's a good person and he's a good friend and a good son and everything around. So I feel like that's what I would say with my dad. My dad and I had a really bad relationship. We didn't talk anything, but he was a super good dad to my little sisters, and then he was a super great uncle to my little cousins, and like he was, so I feel like that is another reason, because my dad wasn't really ever a mean person to anybody else except for me. Like there was just like not a good relationship there. So I feel like it was also easy for him to get along with you, because I feel like he knew from the beginning that you understood him. I'm pretty sure it was like probably the second birthday that I was with Jonathan, and he brought him a bottle from Mexico. My dad was like super excited. So I think from the beginning, like they established a good relationship, because my dad wasn't a mean person. He was just kind of like stern and strict. But I think you never really gave him a reason to not like you. But you know what? This is crazy, because life does come full circle. And like I was saying, people accept the love that they think they deserve. And I think that growing up, since my dad was like an alcoholic and he wasn't a very good husband either, like growing up, I think that all those tendencies led me to Jonathan, because he was, when I met him, like obviously I knew he was a good person, had good morals, went to church, was an amazing friend, like was a good student. So when I saw him, I was like, oh my god, like he's soy. And then when I actually started dating him, and I was like, I feel like when people would be like, why do you accept all of this? But it's like, I didn't know any better. Like this is the love that I received from my dad. This is the love that my dad would give my mom. So it's like when Jonathan was giving it to me, I was like, oh, this is like, you have to accept this. Like this is what it goes down to. So I think, like I'm saying, like life literally goes full circle, and it starts with you at home, because then that's how I just lived those 4 years in a toxic relationship, because I was like, he's gonna change. Like it was the hope that I was holding on to, because I just saw what a good person he was outside of the relationship. So I was like, he has to, like someday he's gonna come to his senses, So that's crazy that I just made that connection right there.
Yeah, and now it's like, I wouldn't say it's perfect yet, but it's now that he's changed because of Franco, I've changed because I changed a while ago from my toxic ways. Like, it's awesome. Now we're two productive men building stuff all the time, watching soccer, football games, cooking, drinking, and honestly, we're heading down a good path, and I'm glad Franco's going to be able to experience like dad and grandpa at the same time, and not just going over to grandpa's or going over to, because a lot of people experience one or the other at separate times, and it's very rare that they get a kid is with both, like in the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that it's good that Franco's getting the best version of
like different
everyone.
families, because I'm sure I'm always going to be with my dad, so Franco will see my dad and me. But, like, it's very rare for, like, suegro and nuero to, like, and then son, you know what I mean? So I think that's good. My trauma is a little bit more lighthearted, guys. I wanted to bring this up because it kind of ties what we were talking about, like, kind of meeting in the middle, and what Stacey and I talked about was kind of like, because we already talked about the strict part of it. Like, we're not going to be, like, obviously no physical or strict or yelling or anything like that. But also with that comes, like, a lot of people think that being strict is, like, physical. You're not going to go out. You're not going to go, like, you're physically not doing something. But it's also, like, emotional. And I would say is the biggest difference between you and me is that, like, although, like, we both had, like, I would say caring moms. Well, my mom was obviously showed it a little bit differently, but I feel like at the end of the day, I always tell people and stuff like that, I think that I give a lot of credit to Blanca's mom in her success because she let her daughter express herself. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm going to learn, and I will learn with Franco, is letting him express himself how he wants. Like, no matter how crazy or, like, not with me it goes, you know what I mean? Because thanks to you, your mom always supporting you, doing these little videos, maybe, like, she probably could have been, like, en vez de hacer estos pinches videos, like, you know, do your homework or something like that, like, you know, or like, why are you always recording us? Like, can't I just, like, walk in peace? Because you would always be recording everyone. And it would be, like, thanks to, like, her supporting you and letting you express yourself, like, we have what we have nowadays, you know what I mean? And for me, my mom never let me express myself, like, how I wanted to. And it all starts from being very, 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 very little, like we were talking about with Franco. And the main thing I want to talk about is my trauma with the ick my comadre has about me is my clothes that I can never coordinate. And it's because when I would always wake up, I had the traditional, like, green or brown ugly ass overalls that were like that, like, velvet material, and like a green or brown white shirt, and then the old man, like, brown shoes. And that's what I wore every day, guys. If I can find a picture, I'll send it to our editor. And but that's what I wore every day, and I never got to express myself, like, with colors, with, like, all like little kids have, like, those shoes that light up and stuff like that. And even when I reached middle school, I remember going to JCPenney, and in the boys aisle, you probably wouldn't know because you were never in the boys aisle, but in the boys aisle, there was this time there was, like, a trend where there were, like, stick figures on the shirts, and they would be doing something funny or saying something funny, like, it would be like, my dog ate my homework, and it's like the stick figure, like, with the papers, and then the dog is ripping them. And the shirts were so freaking cool, guys. Like, my dream, I literally asked for one of those for Christmas. Like, all my friends were asking for video games, Wii's and stuff, and I asked for one of those shirts because I thought they were so fucking cool. And my parents would always, like, they thought that was dumb. Like, why would you wear something like that, you know? So now that I'm, you know, almost 25 years old, that I can finally have, like, my own money, or, I mean, not now, when I moved out, I can't coordinate to save my life. Like, even in high school, when I still lived with my mom, Blanca would always note that I dressed really nice, but because every time I would leave the door, I would have her right there, like, no, that doesn't look good, go change, or go this, or we would go shopping and she would buy my clothes, buy this and that. And honestly, sometimes I wouldn't even go shopping with her, and she would come back with some nice clothes, like clothes I trusted her with. I trusted my mom when she went shopping for me, and at the end of the day, I looked nice. But here comes to that, like, I couldn't express myself, and nowadays, like, I'll leave the house with, like, red shorts, a purple shirt, and white shoes, you know, and, like, a hat that says LA Dodgers, you know, and you get mad. I've noticed other people now, like, our friends, they're like, oh, like, you dress super funny and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't know, like, I guess it's just, like, expressing myself. And that's the main thing I want you guys to, like, know, like, is always support your kids and let them express, because you don't know what that's going to lead to. Like, if they have a weird curiosity with, like, instruments or something like that, and you know nothing about instruments or anything like that, and it's like, no, in my family we're engineers and you're going to be an engineer, and your kid's like, no, well, look, I'm actually really good with this and that. You never know if they'll be like the next Bob Marley or Elvis Presley, you know, like that. And for me, it was like, no, we all graduated from college, and you're going to graduate from college. Like none of that. Like I always wanted to be like have my own stuff, like my own restaurant stuff. So
do you think that, because I know your mom's like biggest goal for you was to graduate college, do you think that if she would have supported your passion for soccer and you would have signed on to a school because of soccer, you would have graduated college?
yeah.
Yeah, so isn't that crazy to think about? Like, if she would have just supported that,
Exactly.
that passion, she would have still had a son that graduated college, but you didn't. You dropped out the first year. And I think that's the main thing. Is like my parents, well, my mom, my dad, like I said, my dad and I never talked, but my mom never pressured me to do anything, guys. And she, like, I don't know, she never had crazy expectations for me. I don't think she ever had expectations, period. And I remember when I was about to quit my 9 to 5, my really nice job where I was a medical assistant and all of that. When I was about to quit it, she not once was like, don't do that. Like, why are you doing? No, it's like, she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, like, and I started showing her like how much money I was making, and she's like, okay. She's like, well, fuck it, like if you're gonna do it. And what helped, I guess, was because my manager was like, if you ever need a job, like it's gonna be here. And I left on good terms. Like my mom has always instilled that for me from the very beginning. It's like, always put your 2 weeks so that if you ever have to come back, like you will. Like even in the freaking call center job that I hated and I had nightmares about, I still like put my 2 weeks and I still told them. And so mom's like, okay, like I guess I'll go ahead. And thanks to that and her not ever being like, well, why are you gonna do it? You're probably never gonna go anywhere with this. And like, you know, so I think that thanks to that and not having crazy expectations and not ever getting anything pushed on me, it led me to where I am today, because she never made me feel insecure. She always made me feel confident in who I was. And like you're saying, like about the things that you wear and stuff. I remember when Jonathan was like at his prime toxic state, and he knew, like he would see, it was like a summer day, and he would see that I was wearing shorts to school. He'd be like, why the hell are you wearing shorts to school? Like blah, blah. And then that's what I was like, dude, my parents don't even tell me what to wear. They don't even like tell me how to dress. So why are you? You know, so I think that yeah, my mom does deserve a lot of credit for just being, or letting me live my free life, you know, because that was freaking crazy.
Because yeah, it's like a butterfly effect, guys. If right now you're tormenting your kid and trying to be controlling or kind of guide them in the path you think you're going, and it's like you never know what they were destined for, or you know.
Yeah, or even when you're out and you see like this little American kid wearing PJs out, and they have like one sock and one different shoe too. Like I remember my mom and I would always be like, mira cómo sacaron al niño. And now I'm like, oh my god, like that's literally what's gonna have to happen. Like Franco one day isn't gonna want to wear the 2-piece matching set that I have for him. He's gonna want to wear his Spider-Man probably. Oh, like Kelly was telling me that her little nephew wore his Spider-Man Halloween costume every single day for like the whole month of Halloween, everywhere. Like he just wore it everywhere. So I'm like, that's just like, that's a battle you have to lose. Like you're not gonna sit there and torment and make your kid mad and make your kid unhappy and sad and unconfident because you want him to wear a 2-piece matching set. Like you're just gonna have to go with the flow. Like I remember the other day we were in Boulder, it was snowing, and there was this little girl, literally leggings, a t-shirt, no socks, no shoes, just walking around. And I'm like, you know what, like that's just a battle you have to lose. And that you being like, okay, pues así, vámonos a comer. I feel like that's just gonna be like, oh my god, I'm so secure with my mom. Like she knows, you know, like she takes care of me, makes me feel safe. And yeah, it's crazy how it just starts like that. But it's funny when I used to judge that, and I'm like, damn, like now that's gonna be me. Franco's gonna be out there with a Woody costume when we're trying to have a nice dinner at freaking Cincinnati or something. But
at the end of the day, like it takes a long time for kids to be like, you know, my dad was right or my mom was right. Yeah. But it comes, guys. It comes eventually, and what better? It's better to be like Blanca. My mom let me express them to me. My mom never let. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't blame. Like we were talking about healing the last podcast. I don't blame her, or I'm trying not to anymore, because I know she had it way worse with my grandma. Like my grandma basically wanted the best. Like my mom was still hit, even though she was valedictorian. If you guys know what that is having the highest GPA in grades. My mom was the smartest kid in her whole grade and never went out, was like basically perfect, like in shape and very pretty. And she still got hit by my grandma. Like she could not live up to her standards. So like for me, she was just kind of good, but still like trying to heal. Like I do remember this one time where all the, you know, remember when you had to watch movies or like you could stay after school, elementary school, and they would put the movies in the gym or something like that. And I remember, like, my mom, that was never an option. Like, first of all, like, she would never, like, so I was, heading out. And one time, my mom, I think I was, like, in 3rd grade when she did this. Instead of, like, going towards, like, pick up, or no, I walked home. I was ready to walk home, and my mom was there in the office, and I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, I bought you I paid you the movie, and I brought you snacks, like, you're gonna watch. Yeah, I remember clearly, it was Lightning McQueen. And then her doing this, even though it was so nice, it, like, hurt so much. And I remember getting so mad at her that I was like, why now? Like, why all these years later? And I was a dick to her that day, guys. I told her, like, leave and, like, leave me alone. And, like, instead of being nice, but it's like we say, like, your emotions, like, it's the first time I had ever experienced that. Mm-hmm. So now with Franco experiencing all his little emotions, like, I just remember that time, and, like, instead of being happy and, like, oh, my mom did, like, I was furious. I was like, hell no, like, I was better off you not coming and me walking home from school, like, but, so, yeah, you never know what little emotions the little kids go through, and at the end of the day, we always say, like, oh, there's bigger problems in this world. I know a lot of parents like to tell their kids, like, there's kids that don't have food. There's kids that don't have the video games you have. But, like, at the end of the day, everyone has their problems. Like, those kids in these third world countries that maybe don't have the Xbox or the PlayStation that you're comparing your son to. Yeah, but then they have a loving, caring father that, like, shows them how to ride horses or how to, plant corn, and whereas your husband is just yelling at your kid with that PlayStation. Does that make sense? Like, everyone has their own battles, and don't make your kids feel less because theirs don't seem that worse,
Yeah, and I think that a really, really good advice that I got on TikTok is, like, don't try to, like, when they're toddlers, don't try to like, then instill, like, your good, what would I say, like, your good teachings to them. Like, don't try to make them a good toddler, because no toddler is good. Like, literally every toddler that you know is a monster, and that's just what they have to be, because they're experiencing everything for the first time. They're getting, like, they're probably going through their 18th leap in their freaking lifetime, and there's so much going on in their little brain that they can't, like, sometimes they just have to throw the tantrum because that's what's going to release all this stress, all this energy. So it's like, when they're toddlers, don't be like, oh, they're just manipulating you, oh, they're smarter than you, oh, they're doing this and this and this. No, it's like when people say your dogs are a representation of you, basically. Like, if you don't train your dogs, then they're bad, period. So it's like, that's with your kids too. Like, if they are, like, obnoxious, if they're trying to get attention, if they're trying to do, like, seek attention and do crazy things to get it, it's like, don't you think that's because you don't give them the attention they need at home? Like, if you're already filling their cup, their bucket with love, they're not going to try to seek that from anywhere else at any other environment. They're just going to be secure little toddlers that know that they already get all of your love, all your attention at home, so they don't have to go and throw a tantrum at Target because you're not going to buy them a toy. And like Jonathan said, you also have to go down to their level, kneel down and be like talk to them and treat them like little humans that they are, because that you expect them to be treated like that by every single person around them. So say a teacher is mean to them, they're going to come home and tell you, like, Mom, like, she did this and this, and they're just going to be those secure little people that trust their parents and that you're their safe spot for them. So there's just a lot, guys. Like, there's so much trauma that you can avoid when you're a parent. And although, like I say, like, when you're older and you're 30 and stuff, you can't blame your parents anymore. Like, you have to be understanding, and you have to seek therapy if you really, really feel traumatized by it. But you can't just blame them for their mistakes. But as a parent, you can avoid a lot of that too. So you just have to be really intentional and just try your best, because at the end of the day, we know that all of our parents tried their best, the best that they could,
Okay. And the less they had, then the less, because I know a lot of you guys in the comments are like, no, my parents were really bad. Well, that's just how bad their parents were, you know what I mean? So obviously there's those oddballs that are like, well, my grandma was so loving and my dad, so, but other than that, yeah, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us through this whole podcast. It was a little deeper than I anticipated, but I think that's what you guys needed and wanted, because 2023 is the year to heal and to thrive, guys. And what better way than to, like, letting out all your emotions and all your dirty laundry and just starting from scratch, because the last thing we want is you to, like, carry it again into another year, or another year that you fight with your parents, another year that you fight with your siblings, another year that you just don't heal, you know? So like Blanca said, at one point, yes, it's your parents' fault, but then at one point it becomes your own damn fault and you've just victimizing yourself and not wanting to heal, you know? Because sometimes parents do apologize. Sometimes parents do go out their way to try to show you, like Blanca's dad, that they care and they're trying to change, and it's up to us that like we need to accept that and then try to seek healment, or what's the word, healment? I don't know, I made that word up, but healing from maybe professional place or just spiritually, you know, try to find God.
Yeah, a lot of people, I feel like I do want to say this because there's a lot of people on TikTok, on social media saying, this is my year, like I'm going to be so successful, I'm calling all the money, and like I'm going to be happy, blah, blah, but for a lot of people, like this isn't that year, you know, like I for me personally, I feel like this is probably going to be a very challenging, trying year for me. And when I was like, when it was midnight, I was like, this is my year. I didn't mean that this was going to be the year where I struggled the most with my mental health, you know, but it's like, don't feel bad if you see all these people like, oh, I'm thriving, 2023 is my year to be successful and to be this and that. If it's your year to struggle, if it's your year to go and to seek healing, if it's your year to find yourself and to like heal the trauma, heal relationships with your parents, with your siblings, like that's totally fine. For everybody, this year is different, and I don't want anyone to feel like you're being left behind or like you're not doing something right. Like if this is your challenging, trying year, then that's because then 2024 is going to be that much better, and you're setting the rest of the future up for success. So don't ever feel like bad for other people having a different year, because it's like everyone has a different life, and last year might have been super hard for a lot of people, but last year for us it was like so amazing because we became parents and we have this beautiful little boy. So it's like if this year is not the same as what people are projecting on social media, don't feel bad about it, you know. It's just you have to go through the storm to get the rainbow, you know. So that's my little motivation for you guys.
Very well. Look at that, babe. You ended the podcast with motivation.
Thanks.
For the first time ever. Anyways, guys, we love you. Happy freaking Thursday for Spotify audio listeners, and happy Friday for all our YouTube listeners. We appreciate you guys both, and you guys got this. Go out there and grab all your dreams by the hair.
Yep. And with that being said, we will see you next Friday, but you can listen to it next Thursday.
Later.